Right, so why it happens, well, you've talked a bit about it there.
Yeah.
The truth behind the trigger, so it's old wounds. We're not really reacting in the now, we're reacting in the past. His phone, and most of our battles and frustrations at home at the moment is over his phone. I'm like, so you were late for school. Like, why was it? And he's like, oh, I couldn't find my trousers. I'm like, right, was it that you couldn't find your trousers, or was it that you were looking at your phone and then you were running late and then you couldn't find your trousers? Did it take half an hour for you to find the trousers and that's why you were half an hour late for school? Or was it that you were looking at your phone for 25 minutes and then couldn't immediately find your trousers, And when we are in our amygdala, we can't use our prefrontal cortex. So that's why when you're triggered, you're not in your thinking part of the brain. You're not thinking, oh, actually, it's not my children's fault, I've had a bad day at work. You're just like, rah, why didn't you take the plates away? So you bottle things up at work and explode in safe space. We've talked about that. And then afterwards we can feel guilty. Now, we might not feel guilty about the road rage and stuff like that, but we will feel guilty when it's our pets, our loved ones, a child that really didn't deserve it, our own children.
When you mentioned there bottling things up, that's a big one. We're creatures of being told, suppress your emotions, don't express yourself, keep it on it. This is like the pressure cooker thing or the volcanic eruption. If you don't let it out, it's going to come out in volatile ways through anger and through aggression. And I used to do that before. I used to bottle things up. And then when I used to drink years ago, like I used to once a month, I'd drink alcohol, too much alcohol, and I'd explode and I'd get angry and just really aggressive. Do you know what I mean? So like I started to learn, let the stuff out, cry, purge, speak the truth, because you don't want it to be bubbling up in that anger, because it kind of gets toxic then. And you end up actually, as we just said, taking it out on people that you love. So this is why it's so important to express yourself in the moment, or express what you're feeling to yourself and to others. Because sometimes it's even in the denial of things to ourselves. And I noticed that lately. I was triggered a lot lately because I was in denial to myself over what we're going through with this transition, which we'll mention a little bit later. But I was going through this tensity and my body was rigid and it was just, and then it all came out in pain because I wasn't, effectively admitting to myself what I was feeling. So it's very important to express yourself, or you can just admit to yourself what you're feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so why it happens, well, you've talked a bit about it there. The truth behind the trigger, so it's old wounds. We're not really reacting in the now, we're reacting in the past. So old wounds and suppressed emotions can cause it. So we've done lots of mindset lives on different core wounds to work on, and it could just also be just that you're overwhelmed, and it can be your relationship to the things that you're doing, the way you're speaking to yourself. So and the way you're speaking to yourself does go back to the wounds, but on more of a surface level, it can be the way you're talking about the things that you're doing. If you're talking about hating doing it while you're doing it, then it builds you up, makes you feel overwhelmed, and you're more likely to snap, aren't you? Is there anything you want to say about why we're triggered?
Oftentimes, as I just mentioned, it's because we're not facing, or we're not aware of what we're feeling. Mm-hmm. So it can stem from, like, my anger initially stems from childhood, stem from that pain, that inner hurt. But oftentimes, or sometimes lately, it can be just the fact that you're as you mentioned, overwhelmed, stressed, not listening to your soul's guidance, not listening to your inner compass, in denial to yourself about how you're feeling, suppressing those emotions towards yourself and others can be an easy way to be triggered. And so it's very important to sit with yourself and ask yourself, hey, why am I feeling this way? Why am I angry? Why am I having these outbursts? Because, there's something that you're not expressing. That's the thing. It's exploding.
But then we express it in the wrong way, and sometimes to the wrong person. Yeah. So if you're triggered, your response isn't based on the current moment. It's based on unprocessed patterns stored in the unconscious mind. So we talk a lot about ways to be self-aware and how to get your subconscious on board. And so it's doing those things to bring awareness to yourself, really being in touch with ourselves. People these days are so busy, they're so distracted that they don't know what they're feeling, they don't notice what they're thinking, they don't notice that they're going through patterns. And it's the society that we've built for ourselves. It's, it doesn't mean that somebody, you're broken or you're wrong, or if you're not very self-aware or on autopilot, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or a stupid person or anything like that. It's so easy. And I would say that most people in the world are running old programs like this. They're just constantly distracted. Social media and we've got, when I was young, you'd have to go onto a computer. We've basically got computers that are more powerful than they were
Yeah,
when I
the
was at
dial-up
school.
system. You wait 33 days for the computer to turn on.
Sorry, say that again.
Remember the dial-up system for the old computers? You'd
Yeah.
be waiting ages for the computer to switch on. Like, it's just, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's moved so fast. And
Mm.
I think society really hasn't set things in place to protect people and children particularly. I think that it can be very damaging for them because it's just so easy to be distracted, and it's so easy. Now, I don't watch TV anymore, and I didn't realize how addictive TV is. Like, if until it's like until you stop doing it, you don't realize the control it has over you.
Yeah, and
So
that's the thing. I turn on television and I spend hours just picking something. I could be watching reruns, the same shit over and over again, and I'd be like, why? Why am I wasting my life feeling that I need to be watching this stupid box? Like, you know what I mean? And like literally, your mind is getting number and number because you're not watching something that's actually feeding your brain. You're just literally watching the same bullshit television over and over again. Switch it off or watch something constructive on your laptop. Do you know what I mean? But just,
yeah,
I took down my television.
yeah. I used to, so I remember like that. I'd not even be interested in, I would be searching channel after channel. And I see my mum do this actually. I think she's online actually. I see you doing this. And you're searching for something that's going to keep you stuck at the box. And it's like, it's different if it's something you're excited about. You've seen an advert, you're like, wow, this really is it's really my kind of thing. I really want to watch it, and sitting down and watching that. But that's not what people tend to do. People do their chores essentially. They go to work, they do the chores around the house, and then they sit down and they stare at the box and they find something to keep staring at while their life passes them by. And there's also, I mean, just doing that in itself is bad enough, but when you think about the things that people might be feeding their brain because they're just watching all kinds of crap basically, because it's addictive, then I guess it's more obvious now with phones because you couldn't take your TV out with you. But now, because you can you see people who are walking down the street still staring at the phone, people going to, you know, activities or, places where one time we would have socialized and they're looking at their phone. My son, one of my sons, can't do anything without looking at his phone. I'm like, if you put your phone down, it would be so much easier to do that job. You'll do it so much quicker, you know. But he's so glued to his phone, and most of our battles and frustrations at home at the moment is over his phone. I'm like, so you were late for school. Like, why was it? And he's like, oh, I couldn't find my trousers. I'm like, right. Was it that you couldn't find your trousers, or was it that you were looking at your phone and then you were running late and then you couldn't find your trousers? Did it take half an hour for you to find the trousers, and that's why you were half an hour late for school? Or was it that you were looking at your phone for 25 minutes and then couldn't immediately find your trousers, you know? And we do this. It's natural to make excuses because we don't want to look at the thing that we don't want to give up. We don't want to change it, so we don't want to look at it. So we'll just go, no, it's this other thing that is the problem, not the big glaring thing that anyone on the outside can see, you know. And sometimes, you know, being self-aware is a difficult thing at first, isn't it? You have to, if we're somebody who hasn't been particularly self-aware, then you have to really be really compassionate to yourself, because it's a muscle that you grow. Because sometimes we don't want to admit to ourselves we're not perfect, you know, and we don't want to give up the TV. We like the TV. And I'm not saying that you have to give up your TV. Think about it, though. That's what I'm saying.
Because one thing I find about television as well, the ad breaks, they're like subliminal darkness. Do you know what I mean? There's negativity like through there's negativity through social media as well. But whatever it is about ad breaks on television, like if you can mute them or skip them, because the subliminals there are trying to keep you even more stuck. And I just think it's a way of keeping you in that dull energy.
I think I can waste an awful lot of time scrolling, definitely, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, but that you can train the algorithm. So the algorithm shows you what you're going to watch. So if you make the intention of not watching anything that might be bad for your brain, eventually it only shows you stuff that's like, all my feed is always like stuff to do with coaching, stuff to do with spirituality, stuff to do with NLP, stuff to do with inspirational speakers. You know, it's all, so my algorithm knows the kinds of things I like to see. But if the thing is, like, sensational stuff, scary stuff, fear really keeps people engaged, doesn't it? And so it might not even be that that's what you're interested in, but that's what's captured your interest. And so the logarithm will just throw more of it at you. It's like, oh, this keeps them on, you know? So the logarithm in itself is not sort of evil, but because of what tends to get human attention naturally. I mean, it is important to pay attention to things that might be dangerous. You know, it's innate, our instinct to go, whoa, I need to know what this is about. And so it's natural that we train our logarithm to show us sensational, scary stuff, things that are going to cause strong emotions in ourselves. So it's just being aware of that as well. And it won't take long to change your algorithm, so long as you're intentional when you are scrolling, that you're like, if I'm going to spend 2 weeks and I'm not going to, if it's fear-based, I'm going to just swipe away. And then it will stop throwing them at you.
Yeah, well, what I do if anything, and it doesn't really happen much anymore, if something negative or no narration comes up, I will actually remove it. You know what I mean? Not interested.
Yeah, you can on Facebook. Can you do that on Instagram as well?
I'm not sure.
Facebook, you can put the cross, can't you?
Yeah, so I like, you know, it says not interested, or I don't see these kind of ads anymore. So like, and thankfully that doesn't happen much anymore, but if it does, it's the first thing I do is just get rid of it and make sure, you know, that my algorithm will know that I'm not interested in that stuff. But also it's really good to stop with the doom scrolling. Train yourself to only use your phone. I know we use our phones for coaching and stuff, but train yourself to use your laptop instead, or train yourself to only go to your phone for 10-minute periods every so often throughout the day, rather than like hours upon hours. That's what I try to do, just keep the phone away from me and try and just do my work on my laptop as well.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit of brain science about why it happens, triggers and anger, is our amygdala, which is a part of our brain near our brainstem. It's kind of in the center. If you think of it as a hand, it's kind of this bit. And then our prefrontal cortex is over the top. It's the main bit. It's our thinking and planning and logical brain. So our amygdala is our protector. And so it gets hijacked And when we are in our amygdala, we can't use our prefrontal cortex. So that's why when you're triggered, you're not in your thinking part of the brain. You're not thinking, oh, actually, it's not my children's fault. I've had a bad day at work. You're just like, rah, why didn't you take the plates away? Or even that, like, shouting at them is not the best way to get them to on side. If you, I know that shouting at me is not the best way to get me on side. It just gets my back up and makes me think you're unreasonable. So even in that sense, yes, they should have moved the plates away and put them in the kitchen. That's their agreement. When they finish their tea, they take the plates into the kitchen, and they often don't do that. So shouting at them, I'm not in my thinking part of the brain when I shout at them. I'm in my amygdala, and then I feel guilty, and I often have to go and then say, I know I shouldn't have shouted at you. I'm really sorry about that. I was very stressed, and I wasn't in control of my emotions, but I hope you understand that we've made this agreement, and you need to be pulling your weight at home, which is what I should have said in the first place. And it's fair to say that we are human, and we are going to get triggered in life. Triggers never go away completely. You're always going to get triggered by things, or you might get overwhelmed and stressed at some point. You might lash out at the wrong person. With children, it's very easy to do. It's a very difficult job, and you shouldn't feel guilty for doing it. But the repair is very important. And actually, the repair is demonstrating to the children that you own your own emotions, that you are reflective on whether you communicated that in the best way, you apologize when an apology is required, and that you repair the relationship, so you don't just go and sulk with each other. We don't start doing silent treatment stuff. And so there is a lot of value in that repair. You don't have to get it right all the time, but you do need to repair and own it. Otherwise, the children will not repair and own it when they make those mistakes, which they're going to do.